can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Let's go. FT Live. Off-season edition. Does that feel weird to say, Kratz, while AJ gets himself situated after an unfortunate spilling accident just seconds before the show began?
No, it's awesome. I'm getting ready for winter ball now. Like this is where the grinders do. The winners, they're still drunk from last night, but I'm getting ready for winter ball. So hopefully you're not getting ready for instructs. That would suck.
What's winter ball?
Winter ball.
Did you never go, AJ? No.
Can you imagine them sending me to like the Dominican for 6 weeks? Oh, baby.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I would
You
want
would've
a
had a
camera
blast.
on him. You would have loved it. You would have been having cocktails.
I would have
before,
been La
during, after
Flama
games.
Blanca like Kenny Powers.
Flama Blanca, the white flame.
I thought that would have been great. 1 year. You should have done it just for the bucket list.
Yes.
No, the 1 year I actually was supposed to do it, I broke my hamate, so I wasn't able to go. But
I would
was
send
supposed to go.
any prospect catcher that hasn't like really established himself. I would send them down to Dominican to play 6-8 weeks. It's awesome. Life-changing.
I'm down to do shows there. If one of our awesome sponsors wants to send us down there, I'm down. It's fine. We can go. We can handle it. We'll do interviews and the whole deal. So anyway, let's charge the damn mound because we need to give it up for the Texas Rangers and give them all the love that we can. They are the World Series champions in the 63rd season of their existence as a franchise. If you go back to when they were the Washington Senators, AJ, all they needed to do was spend $500 million on their infield, rebuild, sign Bruce Bochy, make moves at the trade deadline, and they could have done this a long time ago.
Yeah, or had Nelson Cruz play a little deeper on a fly ball to right. I mean, or that, but whatever. One strike away. But congratulations to the Texas Rangers. We talked about it last night on the post game. Listen, I played for the Texas Rangers in 2013. Great organization. Still a lot of the same people are there, from the front office people to the people behind the scenes that a lot of people outside of baseball don't know about. Rich Rice, John Blake, Hoggy, the umpires room guy who was our home clubhouse guy, Brandon, the clubhouse people. All these guys were there. All these people were there. A great organization. They went out and got it. They went out, they spent the money, they made great trades. We praised them at the trade deadline this year when they got Scherzer and they got Montgomery and Aroldis Chapman. And listen, those guys came up huge for them. And guess what? For the first time ever, the Rangers are World Series champions. And you know what? Good for them because they did it right. Chris Young and those boys did it right. They went out and got the right people, brought them in, spent money the right way, and boom, you get rewarded.
So let's bring in a friend to help tell the story. Yes, we did a nice hearty 30 minutes on the game and on this team. Let's continue the conversation right now with Stadium's Russ Dorsey joining the party right now. So, Russ, what did you think of Game 5? What did you think of the way that the Rangers are built to win a World Series title this way?
Yeah, Game 5, obviously, for the Rangers, a great game. Great game for just as a baseball fan, somebody who enjoys watching the game. The D-backs, even though they did not win the World Series, they were in every one of these games. And even I say you look at Game 4 where, the Rangers put up 10 runs in the first 5 innings, you're like, okay, they were able to come back. They weren't just going to get blown out in that game. But for the Rangers, you look at, and you guys mentioned it before you brought me on, $325 million on Corey Seager. You spent $175 million on Marcus Semien 2 years after losing 100 games, and you say, you know what, we're not going to be this team. We're not going to be the team that loses for 5-6 years and tries to luck in the top 5 draft picks to get ourselves back in a position to potentially compete. We're going to go out. We're going to get guys who are proven winners, like a guy like a Corey Seager, who was a World Series MVP with the Dodgers and 28 years old, right? Not a guy that we're going to overpay for when he's past 30. We're going to get a guy who we can grow into this next 10 years of his career in his peak years. Marcus Semien, we're going to get this guy who's a leader in that room, a guy who goes out there and goes about his business. We're going to bring in the best manager available in Bruce Bochy and tell him, hey, we want you to come out of retirement, but we wouldn't ask you to do this if we didn't think you could do it right now. So credit to not only Chris Young, but John Daniels for being the guy who was really behind building this thing as well. And Chris Young pointed that out in his post-game interview on the podium last night. And so I think when you look at the Texas Rangers and what they were able to do this season, I think they silenced a lot of the people that went out there and said during the year, see, spending all that money, it's not really helpful. Look at the Mets, look at the Padres. This is a team that said, hey, we're not going to do that long rebuild thing. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, literally, and we're going to build a winner.
You mentioned so many people. Who is the true MVP? Front office, ownership, is it Bochy? Is it a player? Who is the true MVP? Why they are hoisting the trophy today?
I'm going to say when you have an ownership group that says we're going to spend in this day and age in baseball, I think that's a really big deal. Because I think you have a lot of ownership groups that will literally punt and say, nah, we're good. We don't need a $300 million guy. We don't need a $250 million guy. And this was a team that within 24 hours signed both Seager and Simeon. And I think for that fan base, very similar to what happens in Philly with John Middleton. Hey, are we going to win? Are we going to be in the playoffs? Can we build a winner? If we're going to be able to do all those different things, then yes, let's go ahead and do it. And so good on the Rangers ownership group for making the commitment to winning, for not handcuffing their front office. Because I think you see that a lot as well, where you have a front office that wants to make the right decisions, that wants to go out and spend because that's the way you can get back to contention, but don't have the ability to do that because they don't get that blank check from their ownership groups.
So now that the rhetoric of no 275 plus $1 million free agent has gone on to win a World Series, will we see a change? Will we see teams that don't spend say, hey, you know what? We have a 5-year window of we want to win, we're going to spend, and then we're going to pull it back. Would that be you feel like that could be something that could be down the road for some teams?
Yes. I think I to your point, like I still look at the Padres and I say, man, there's far too much talent here. And I know there's a lot going on there. And like, will they trade Juan Soto? Will they not? What's the future of not only that team, but that front office, et cetera? They don't even have a manager yet. And so, but I still look at that team on paper and I say, man, there's so much damn talent on this team. Could that be does that, right? You look at the Philadelphia Phillies and what they've been able to do over the last couple of years, a team that was, a game away from getting back to the World Series. And I think they're going to be back that same position next year. I think that's a team that's, shown a model that works of, yes, you can spend money on marquee free agents and be competitive and continue to add. It's not always going to go the way you expect it to. It's not always going to go the way it did for the Rangers this season. But when you give yourself as many opportunities as you can to have good players, not only good players, but great players on your team, you improve the likelihood that you can make it to a World Series.
Russ,
to answer your question.
Russ, you and Kratz were talking about all these MVPs and all, who could be the MVP and who this and who's that. You guys forgot two people. One, you forgot Will Smith, who's won 3 World Series with 3 different teams. So if you want to win the World Series next year, you better sign Will Smith. And second of all, you guys forgot Creed. Creed? They said they were struggling. They brought in Creed. So, Russ, I want to know, do you know one Creed song other than Higher?
No.
I knew it.
No. And listen, and AJ, you know this well. Like, Journey was your Creed in 05, yeah, right? Like you could walk around the city without hearing Journey. And so, hey, whatever helps you get in that mode. Shout out to Creed. They got the reunion tour popping now, so it worked out for everybody.
Hey, Creed announced the reunion tour. The Rangers didn't lose a game after that. So I don't know, coincidence? Maybe not. They went on the road. Rangers didn't lose on the road. There's a big deal. I tried to get on the Creed cruise. they live pretty close to me. I couldn't even get a cabin. It sold out in like 7 minutes. So, Russ, if maybe we should go on that cruise together. We could teach you some Creed songs.
They got a cruise?
Oh, believe it. Summer
That's big
99
time.
cruise. They got 2 cruises. The first one sold out so fast, they got a second cruise.
Good for Creed, man. That's big time. That's big time stuff.
All right. So besides Will Smith signing, what's going to be the first big news story to break this offseason?
I think it's going to be some of these managerial hires, right? I know Craig Counsell is making the rounds, and I look at that, and Kratzy, from being in Milwaukee, that's a guy that I consider one of the best managers in the big leagues, and there's some opportunities out there for him where you can get wined and dine, you can talk to different teams, and I was doing a radio hit yesterday here in town, and an idea was thrown out there that could make some sense where maybe a team that already has a manager sees that Craig Counsell is not only available, but making the rounds. And you say, hey, if Craig Counsell could be our manager, maybe we do make a change right now and bring him in because, maybe a guy is off the table and you're like, we're fine with the situation we have. But it's like, all right, if that guy's available, maybe we go do that. Like something that happened here in town a couple of years ago, Ricky Renteria was the manager of the Chicago Cubs. All of a sudden, Joe Madden's available. And they say, Ricky, we appreciate your services and everything you've done. But if we can get Joe Madden here to Chicago, we're going to do that. Rest was history. So I think Craig Counsell's decision is one that I'm really interested to see. And then with player transactions, it's always weird because I think we've gone in the last decade from guys signing into November, into the winter meetings, and around Christmas to now. I don't think things are even going to get going until the winter meetings and then a little bit after. I think the one that I'm really interested in is seeing what the Padres do with Juan Soto, right? If they ride it out, if they trade him and move him, and who that team is. Because I think there's a lot of teams out there that could use a big-time superstar bat. And who is that team that ponies up?
So just what you're saying, you're telling me you live in the city of Chicago. The White Sox could be coming with arms wide open.
Yes,
You can get Craig Counsell. Pedro Grifol is gone.
Hey, listen, I don't think that was happening, Kratzy. I don't think they should, because if you have a manager of his caliber available, you 100% should. I don't think that one's happening.
They already announced that Grifol is back for the White Sox anyway. And when a front office...
Here's my thing, Scott. Like the Padres said that Bob Melvin was coming back too. So I don't always take what
Russ, you just stole my joke. That's where I was going, obviously. I was like, anything a front office member says about their manager is obviously exactly what's going to happen.
Right. Like,
I don't confidence.
No, I don't think that's gonna happen here in town. One thing that could happen, like I know the idea of Juan Soto to the Cubs has been floated. It makes sense from the idea that the Cubs haven't had that superstar type of player. It's a team that has money to spend, and I know Soto would be looking for an extension. Will it happen? I don't know. I really don't know what the Cubs want to do in terms of additions, but it would kind of go in that trajectory that they're looking for. Like they made a lot of strides this year, didn't obviously get where they wanted to go, but it feels like they need that aircraft carrier. They need that guy that kind of, lifts the rest of that lineup. Pete Alonso was a guy that was thrown out there a couple months back. So I can see it like as being a viable option for them. I just don't know if the Cubs pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then going back to what you were saying about Counsell and the manager situation, I think we can tie this back to the World Series. Do you know who the highest paid manager was from 2017 to 2019? Does anyone know? Any guesses? Highest paid.
2019 was Madden.
2017 to 2019 was Bruce Bochy, $6 million a year. Bruce Bochy. And then obviously he took a few years off and comes back. I don't know what his current salary is. I'm sure it's probably not necessarily at that level, but it's probably a hefty sum. It matters because obviously there was a lot on the transaction front with this team, but you brought an adult into the situation in Bruce Bochy, who's been there, who's one of the best in the biz to do this, and it helped. So I think generally speaking, it's actually one of those edges that a team can have where some of the teams, Russ, that don't spend a ton of money can actually make sure that they have their management tight, right? Their front office, your manager, all of that is set up the way it should be. There's not drama. There's not inexperience. There's connectivity with players, coaches, front office. That's way cheaper to get done than signing a $500 million infield, which some teams are just never going to do, right? Even if they can do it, they're going to act like they can't do it. And they're going to be like, listen, that's awesome for Texas. Wish we could do that. We could never do that. And that's why, there's a lot of jealousy with the Padres, a lot of people that were rooting against them this year because they're like small market team. It's making us look bad. But I think managers, that easy position where you can be like, all right, I think we overcorrected here or whatever you want to call it. We went way too far the other way where we're trying to pay managers 6 figures and they're managing a bunch of dudes that are making so much more money than them. And they're very valuable parts of the team. So for me, that's where I think any team should be in the mix, because if you think about it, it's like it's not even the cost of a number 5 starter. I mean, it's like half the cost of a number 5 starter to get the top manager in the biz.
Yeah, I look at, we were talking about Craig Counsell. Look at what's happened in Milwaukee over the last decade, right? Where you have a guy in Craig Counsell that you knew was going to be the manager every year. They had a front office led by David Stearns that you knew was going to be there, which is why everybody connects him to the New York Mets. But look down in Tampa with Kevin Cash and what he's been able to do down there with continuity. Look at Torey Lovello, right? A guy who was in Arizona the last time they were in the postseason in 2017. And the Diamondbacks said, hey, this is our guy. Like there's been a lot of teams who said, hey, we appreciate you getting us through the bad times. We're going to go in another direction. They said, no, Torey is our guy. And I think you could see that why they made that decision, because I think Torey Lovello got every drop of production out of this team, and good on them for identifying the guy that they wanted to lead this team into the next generation of really good D-backs baseball. So your point, Scott, I do think it's important. I think there's a way to marry the two of getting the guy that you think leads this team for the next 5 to 7 years, but also saying, but we're going to show a commitment to spending in the marketplace, because we want a manager that feels empowered and feels like we're going to do everything we can to bring them a World Series.
Russ, World Series question for you. The ratings weren't good compared to what they were, okay? Even though relative, you got to keep looking at where we are in the present day and the competition that's there, not just from other sports. We've gone over this a lot, right? You're never going to have ratings from the 80s and 90s again. Cool, get it, right? Even looking more recently. Cubs is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime situation. Some of those curses that get broken. Yes, I get it. The Rangers hadn't won yet, but it just wasn't perceived the same way. Do you feel like in our sport, when we're at the biggest stage, there are storylines that often take over that kind of suck or are super negative? So World Series ratings, umpire missed calls from a couple games ago. Who was that? Alfonso Marquez, where that kind of dominated towards the end of that game, even though there were kind of some bad calls right away in that sequence that went both ways. But do you know what I'm saying? Where, I mean, you cover all sports, right? So do you feel like when we get to the NBA Finals, when we get to the Super Bowl, it's that same kind of whining and criticism? And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be talked about, because it is real. And I like to talk about like, hey, why do we think less people are watching our game, especially if it's not like the, big teams in the big markets? Just wanted to get your thoughts on the ratings and also why we always end up at this point. Like, is it fans and sports fans around us, or is it that there's actually something legit to complain about?
I think part of it is you have the people whose jobs it is to report on that, right? So your front office sports and Sports Business Journal, etc. The Post, right, with Andrew Marchand and all the great stuff he does over there reporting on sports media. It's awesome. We need all those different things. I think sometimes when you get the reporting on that, there's this wave of this is why baseball sucked and they're losing fans and XYZ. Personally, and you guys know this, one, I'm watching the games regardless, because not only is it my job, I love baseball. And no, this wasn't the Red Sox, Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs, Astros, Phillies, all these monster markets. But this was a great World Series to me. I really enjoyed the storylines on the Texas side. I enjoyed the storylines of a team with 84 wins that just got red hot at the right time, making it to the World Series. And I don't think that's not going to touch the casual fan. You know, those storylines and things that interest you or me or the guys, like that's not going to interest the people who are just watching baseball during October. And so is there something to be done by baseball? Sure. I think there are always better ways for the sport to market itself, market its players. I think there's sometimes things at this point in the year where you have football going, both college and professionally with the NFL, that are going to be unavoidable. But maybe there is a conversation to be had. What we had talked about last week of moving, that last week of the postseason where maybe it's moved up by a week. If you could figure out how to schedule things around. So is there something to be done by baseball to help market better and maybe bump those numbers? Sure. But do I think it's an indictment of the games themselves? No, because I was thoroughly entertained.
Russ, since you were entertained by that, I have to ask this before we let you go.
Okay.
Are the Bears going to cover the 8.5 this week in New Orleans or not? Because that's all I really want to know.
Brother, you watched the same game I did on Sunday night. I think you know the answer to that. I think you know the answer to that.
Is Fields? Okay, so I mean, I know you cover every sport. I know we're a baseball show. But
Baseball show.
Wait.
Well, you're a Chicago guy.
I want to stop this narrative. Russ Dorsey is a baseball guy. Russ Dorsey.
I said that, but you cover every sport. Yes,
but baseball guy. Go ahead.
I know, but you also live in Chicago, so
I do.
So I mean, while we have you on, I got to ask these questions about the Bears because as a Bears fan, Scott hates it, but I don't really care his opinion.
The baseball show.
But just real quick, Justin Fields, is he? I mean, they've been overhyping the other quarterback crazies. Like, are they trying to already watch Justin Fields out of the league and what the other guy? Because it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's nasty out here, AJ. It's nasty out here. You had the brother after one game, it didn't complete one pass over 20 yards. People are like, oh, get Fields out of here. We're done. And I think there's this fatigue. And you've been in the city with bad quarterback play where the backup quarterback just gets all this love and admiration because the best quarterback of the last 25 years is Jay Cutler. So it's too much. The kid is a great story. Sounds like he's a good kid at a D2 Shepherd, but let's stop. It's nasty out here.
Okay, thank you, Russ. Now we can get back to baseball. Thank you very much.
I just have one more question before you go, and then we're going to bring on Rowdy Tellez. So I've read all about, and I didn't realize this, Mike Hazen being insanely superstitious. Like there's times where he's like sitting in a bathroom with music on during the 9th inning because he doesn't want to watch, and he's got all kinds of things that he thinks affects the way the game plays out. How does he not sign Will Smith?
I think now that everybody knows about the Will Smith thing, I think it's a good offseason to be Will Smith. I'll tell you that right now. Right? You're gonna have all the big boys in there. You're gonna have teams like the D-backs in there. The Phillies gonna be like, well, shoot, if we had a Will Smith, maybe we would have won Game 7. So it's a good winner to be Will Smith.
He is the clubhouse whisperer. We've had him on. Now we got to bring him back, AJ, because we got to ask him there's got to be something. I don't even care about his arm or what he's doing. There's got to be something he's doing in the clubhouse. He's got some snack he's cooking for everyone. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out.
He's got a good agent that puts him in the right spot. Don't forget.
Yeah, who's that?
I don't know, but his agent put him with the Braves, the Astros, and the Rangers 3 years in a row. So his agent clearly picks good spots.
Very popular dude. We need to bring him on and ask him that. Russ, enjoy the rest of your week, dude. We'll talk to you next week, all right?
See you guys.
Cheers. Poll question there for you. Who are the favorites to win the 2024 World Series? 2024 World Series. Check that out. Watchstadium.com/foul territory. BRB with Rowdy Tellez.
I'm wondering how much we should be talking about home field advantage in the playoffs these days, because it hasn't been a factor in our game, it feels like, for a while. And even when it felt like it was going to be a big factor, we talked up Philly a lot. They end up losing 2 games at home to Arizona to lose that series. So here's your updated math, AJ. Road teams in the playoffs are 25-15, And actually, if you take out the Rangers, it's 500 because the Rangers are freaking 10-0 on the road. But still, 25-15 on the road. I kind of feel like maybe I want to play on the road. Maybe there's less distractions. I don't know. I mean, that's massive.
Usually there is less distractions on the road, especially in the playoffs, because you get less ticket requests, you get less things. And the traveling secretary, the team director of team travel, whatever they're called now, they usually take care of the families. They do all the plane flights and they do all the hotels. And it's much easier when you're at home. You got people calling you, hey, can I get tickets? Can I get tickets? You're like, hey, look, you didn't ask me a month ago. No chance. So I think home field advantage in baseball is probably the most overrated thing there is. I mean, ask the Houston Astros, who were under 500 and still won the division, but it is not as big of a deal as home ice in hockey, home field in football, home court in basketball. It doesn't get swayed as much because every team still has the advantage. And people say, oh, you get to bat last. But if you're losing by 10-2 in the ninth inning, does it matter if you hit first or last? I mean, that doesn't really matter. So home field doesn't mean a whole lot in baseball. And now back to foul territory.
The man, the myth, the legend, Rowdy Tellez is back on FT Live. Rowdy, good to see you, dude.
What
Happy
up,
off
guys?
season. Where are you? What have you been up to?
I'm in Dallas. I'm back home. Then just been working out, taking care of, those long injuries, those, long season stuff, and then just getting ready. I head up to Kansas for my first hunt, believe it or not, tomorrow. So that'll be nice. Get away from it a little bit.
Wait, are you going with Gunnar
No.
Henderson and those boys?
Absolutely not. I don't hunt with people. I don't want to deal with people. Those guys strike me as guys that talk about baseball too, and that's the last thing I want to do.
They do. They want to talk about how they're going to make it through and get further in the playoffs next season. So
yeah,
you're not interested in that on November 2nd?
That's fine. And I didn't even watch a World Series, so.
Oh, great. Well, we were going to spend about 15 minutes asking you play-by-play of what went down. Do you know anything? Do you know that the Rangers won?
I do. I saw that. I know Corey Seager hit a home run in like every game, and that's about all I know. Only thing I saw was Marcus Semien is probably one of my favorite teammates, one of the better teammates, and I know that last couple of games he turned it on. So I was good. I was happy for him. I saw that home run, but other than that, I didn't watch a ton.
Well, can I ask you a question without even watching the World Series? Can you explain to me why a team would look at one of the top hitters in the sport, who has now proven to be one of the most clutch hitters in the sport, in Corey Seager, and continue to give him pitches to hit when you could clearly work around him to pitch to some other dudes? And that also includes Adolis Garcia was hot as hell for a stretch in the postseason, and then he got hurt, and they still were pitching to Corey, which I found a little bit questionable, and fans in Arizona were kind of freaking out. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to intentionally walk him every AB, but I think they gave him a lot to hit.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's baseball. Sometimes, you're not trying to throw that pitch and you end up throwing it right down the middle. But, yeah, it kind of blows my mind when you got somebody like that who's, just anything you throw through the zone, he's putting a barrel on it. Kind of makes you wonder why you don't just unintentional, intentional walk where you just see if he swings or not, and if he does, he does. But most of the time, he's just, that lineup was, once they lost Adolis, it was like, why? There's nobody else really that can do the damage that he was doing, but, it didn't really matter.
For someone that didn't watch the World Series, you sure know a lot of shit about the World Series.
I literally just repeated what somebody else said.
People do that all the time, actually. But Kratz, am I missing anything? I mean, did I explain that well? Tried to keep it simple, but just I felt like there were pitches that, there were even earlier in the series some first pitch fastballs to Corey Seager, which I don't know. Have you been watching Corey Seager for the 8 years that he's been in the bigs? That's kind of his thing.
It's the highest. He swings at all of them. He just swung today at a first pitch.
Exactly. Rowdy, so tell me what you're up to this off season, aside from the hunt coming up by yourself. Anything on the books, plan wise, and also what do you do as far as taking time away from swings, and then when you kind of go back to it, and do you tweak that per off season?
Yeah, I was just at my best friend's wedding in Scottsdale. They did it at a resort, and so I had to do the best man speech. They said keep it like 2 to 4 minutes, and I did 6.5 of just a pure roast of them. So it was that, that was what we did to start the off season, and then just throughout, I like to hunt, like to relax, kind of get away from reality, and then but I started working out like 10 days ago, last week basically, and then I start Pilates, so that'll be
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Dude, I gotta do it.
Wait.
I'm trying to get more flexible.
So wait, hold up, because I do Pilates, and I'm not flexible at all. But I mean, I feel like do you do like the machine Pilates or the floor Pilates, or are you on a reformer? What's your go-to Pilates?
I'm on.
He gone. See,
sorry,
He's
I got
back.
a phone call.
You're good.
I'm on a reformer. I do a private class, so they can't make fun of me because I'm not good at it. I'm like really. It's like trying to mold like dried cement. Like I don't move well. So I just want to be able to move well. So I started that this off season, and it sucks. Anybody that's done it knows it's not fun. It's really hard.
it is.
And I feel bad because the ladies like trying to like adjust me, and I'm like sweating through my whole uni, and I'm like, I feel bad for this girl.
Do you wear Brewers shirts when you work out?
Dude, I just came from the gym. I don't have Brewers anything on. I don't even.
Dang.
No.
Did you walk from the gym
I'm
or
not-
did you run from the gym? You're sweating like Francisco Cervelli at a drug test.
I'm not, but I've only played for 2 teams, so I don't have like a ton of shit like you do. I don't have anything, like where my whole wardrobe is everything you have. But no, I did it when I was younger. I wore like my Blue Jay stuff in the minor leagues, to go work out at my gym in the off season. And my old high school pitching coach pitched in the big leagues for a couple months, and he saw me in it, and he wore me out about letting people know. He was like, hey, you don't even have a Lansing Lugnut shirt on. You're not even on the Blue Jays, so why do you have Toronto Blue Jays stuff? You're not even that good. He kind of just went in on me, and I was like, all right, well, I'll never do that again. So that kind of ended that,
man.
and I was like, all right, dude, I'm just going to wear gym clothes.
Smart guy.
I really thought my money was on Kratz and me being the Pilates experts. I don't think I've ever done Pilates. Kratz, have you?
No Pilates.
Do
Yoga.
you think FT fans, if we were like, hey, FT people that are watching right now, which half of the screen is doing Pilates and which half is not? I think it would have been like 90% would have guessed Kratz and me. Yeah, that's crazy. Good. I like it. I like it.
The athletes are doing Pilates. We got to stay ready.
Do you wear shorts that makes it look like you're smuggling grapes when you're doing Pilates?
I kind of got some short ones on. I wear leggings too, though.
Just leggings or shorts over, I hope.
That's yoga pants for men.
Yeah, pretty much. Shorts over. I got to keep it, and then I wear a high-waisted one, so it makes it look like I'm already down 20 pounds. You got to, I'm trying to be aerodynamic, and I got to look good, just for when they do ever show me. So then they're like, man, he's working hard. And then I just kind of take it off. It's like, that fat girl in the club where you're like, dude, she looks good. And then she gets back to your house and she drops it out and you're like, damn, I got fooled.
Whose idea with this, by the way, for the Pilates? Was it you or the team or a mix?
No, this is AJ's been there. AJ knows what I'm talking about.
This is a Rowdy special. Again, this side of the screen is on a whole nother planet right now. But
because we do Pilates. I've done yoga, Pilates my whole career.
Yep,
dude. I can hardly touch my toes, so I'm trying to get.
Me too, but I also have never pulled a hamstring.
Yeah, can't pull fat. That is a true saying. No, my PT away from the team was like, hey, we need to do a lot of things this year. And I was like, yeah, we should do a lot of things. She was like, we're going to get you a dietitian, a new trainer, Pilates, and a massage therapist. And I was like, cool, who's paying for this? And she was like, you are. And I was like, all right.
Is it worth it? You think it's going to be worth it?
I do. I mean, I feel good. I mean, I know I've lost some weight already, and I feel good. It's hard. It is tough, and it's just one of those things where, like, as much as I want to eat bad food, or even, the toughest part is when you go hunting or you got to hang around people. Like, and of course, like when you're a big dude, all your friends have like metabolism of a 14-year-old, so they can eat whatever they want. And I'm over there eating rabbit food, sweating because I want a piece of pizza.
Wait, you hunt by yourself though, so you can eat whatever you want.
Yeah, like if I'm by myself, I hunt by myself. I'm not in camp. Like I'm in camp with other people, but like I'm by myself. Like I don't know what those dudes do. They're like Gen Z. They're like young kids. They probably sit there on their iPads and watch TV while they sit in a warm, heated stand. I sit in a tree stand that's cold.
So what are your goals? What are your goals? Like, are you trying to like touch it? You said you can't touch your toes. Is that like a goal? Like, I want to be able to touch my toes?
I basically want to look like you. But
dude, if you look like me, you would be so arrogant. Nobody would want to be around you if you. So, like, I'm serious. Like, how much weight do you want to lose? Like, is that a thing? Because there goes some power.
I look like you from the eyebrows up right now. But I want to. I want to realistically lose like 15 to 20 pounds. Add some muscle, but just like help with the agility around the base. I really want to be a better defender. I think a lot of people kind of write me off for that. I'm good around the bag, but I just don't have a ton of range. That first step quickness kind of lacks. So I think with losing weight, it'll be easier on my body, and it'll be, it's good for the long term to play defense and play for a long time.
So, Rowdy, are you going to be that guy in camp where they go, what's the acronym? BSOL.
Best shape of my life.
You know BSOL, right?
BSOML.
OML. Thank you.
Yeah. No. But round is a shape, so I've always been in a good shape.
When someone asks you that in spring training, that's got to be your first answer.
It always is. Usually it's Corb looking at me, and he's like, and I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? How'd the offseason go? He's like, good. And he was like, how was yours? You do anything this year? And I'm like, yeah, man, it worked out hard. And he's like, oh, and at the buffet? And I'm like, no, dude. I don't need your bullshit right now. Trying to be good.
I have a question, Rowdy. Did teams still do the meetings right after the season? Like, do you have the whole formal sit down and they go, okay, here's what you did well, here's what we want you to work on, report card kind of stuff? Or is it more casual these days because guys can't handle that?
I don't know. I mean, I did when I was younger, but I didn't do it this year. Did nothing. No. I basically had my stuff packed, but no, I didn't get one. You might have to be important for that, but I definitely didn't get one. So, but I don't know. I really don't. I think kind of coming into this offseason, it was just let's do everything I can to put myself in the best situation for next year. Obviously, didn't have the year I wanted to. Injuries, so I just wanted to take care of that and get that out of the way and make sure I was doing a lot better on that front, and then just get going and start the offseason.
Also, your manager might not be back, so maybe he was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that about the Craigerator. I really, really enjoyed playing for him, if that is my last time. He's a really, really smart manager, really good individual. Really, he gets it. He played a long time, played World Series. He just wants to win, and I think he brings that every year into spring training of just that winning mindset, and that's why we go to the playoffs every year. I think that's why a lot of guys want to come play for him. A lot of guys excel around him just because he brings that energy, and he promotes a really good environment and like a family environment. Like, these are your brothers from day in, day out. It's cheesy, like the whole brother speech and you're going to battle, but like he really does embrace it and he really does talk about it. And he's good with it. He's really good. And he brings in a staff that allows you to be you, but also kind of like that, not a college environment where like he allows you to be you, but when he sees something, he's going to call you out. Like, that's exactly what he does. He's going to let you succeed. He's going to let you fail. But if he feels like you're doing something wrong and you're not doing it right, he'll call you out and kind of just be like, hey, man, he's really good with communication, basically.
So I feel like I know what your answer is going to be here, but are most managers underpaid? Because part of this storyline, at least that we're following from reports right now, he's going through an interview process. And I think he's trying to make sure that managers are back to where they should be in terms of like the upper tier that's been in the league for a while and has had success. Like Bruce Bochy just won another World Series. I don't know what he's making this year, but he was the highest paid skipper from 27 to 2019, $6 million a year. And, he's been pretty damn good and he's been earning his money. Sometimes there's dudes that come into the league and not that they're necessarily bad, but teams are offering them 6-figure contracts. So I'm wondering how you think the importance of a manager can change a team. Same team, 2 different dudes, how much of a difference it can make in terms of wins and losses.
I don't know I don't even know what managers make, to be honest.
Well, Bochy was $6 million in 2017 through 2019. I think Kratz, help me out. Was Craig's reported at like 3.5?
Yeah, 3.5.
3.5.
I mean, but it's not.
I mean,
it's not substantiated, but yeah, I think it's right.
I think it should be a scale like how baseball players are. Obviously, the better you are, the better you manage, the more you should get paid. And I feel it's just like it's a free agency. Like you want to go somewhere you want to go somewhere where you feel valued, but the money's also an aspect. I mean, I know a couple of you guys have been free agents, so you kind of look at it that way. Like you want to make money, but you also want to be somewhere where you wanted. And like a lot of it has to do with players also, but some of these big market teams are willing to pay. And if that's what you want, then that's what you want. I can't speak for Craig. I don't know what he really wants. And, I know deep down he wants to win a World Series. He's done it as a player multiple times, so that's what he wants. But, I do think managers should be paid according to how they're performing for starters. But then, if you play for New York Yankees, they're going to have more money than the Tampa Bay Rays. That's just how it's going to be then. But I don't know. I can't really speak on that front.
All right, we got, Halloween just passed. Big Woo was just on. I want you to hear what Big Woo has to say here. So,
Fans are still scarred from Rowdy Tellez sending his freaking jammed up finger, and he said we could post it.
God.
And I was all right. So
Jesus,
yeah, send us something.
this
nice,
dude, he thinks he's an athlete trying to fill fly balls in the outfield and just bums up his finger. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You
And
know
that
your
looked
place.
like Halloween. That looked like Halloween.
that was gore.
For the record, Rowdy, I said nothing about your athletic prowess. I was bringing up how Woody should send us a picture of his Halloween costume. And I did say your finger wins for Halloween costume, even though it was like 3 months ago.
I think you meant to bring it up intentionally. I think that was something you really wanted him to say something about. So, but he's not wrong. That was just dumb on my part. I don't know what I was doing. I thought I was cool for a day, and then the crazy part was I was supposed to be joining the team again in a couple days. It's like my time on the IL was up, and then I stuck my finger through a meat grinder pretty much, and my nail's growing back though.
Let's see.
Yeah. Barely tell anything.
Oh,
Barely
not bad.
tell.
He looks like you chew on him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not bad, dude.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I mean, I have all the feeling in it and nothing. It's just ugly, but
All right. What? Just real quick, what'd you go as dress up as Halloween? Then we got to go. What'd you dress up as?
Nothing. I just handed out candy. I sat in front of my fireplace or my fire pit outside in front of my house and handed out candy to kids. We're a full-size candy bar household, so we are a cool household.
Yes.
Proud of you.
So I think we bought 360 and we ran out.
Solid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Solid.
Proud of you. But you didn't even have like a hat, nothing.
8 boxes.
Rowdy, you didn't have anything on, just a t-shirt? Just
no, I did.
plain day?
This one kid, no, I had nothing on. I just had a regular warm jacket in front of my 49ers fire pit that they're currently letting me down for 3 straight weeks. And I sat there. I had a couple of friends over. We had some trick-or-treating adult beverages. And then I had this one kid come up to me, and without saying trick-or-treating, he said, "Hey, Brewers suck." And I said, "Okay, thanks, man. Appreciate it." And then I had another kid come up, fully dressed like he was from school. I said, "Hey, what are you for Halloween?" And he was like, "I'm a 5th grader." And I was like, "Oh, nice." And he goes, "Yeah, we don't have money for costumes." I said, Oh, okay. And I was like, "Yeah." And then he didn't even say trick or treat. We have no kids saying trick or treat. We had the most polite little kids. We had little 3-year-old, she was dressed as Elsa. I gave her like 3 or 4 big candy bars because she was a peach.
Wait, a kid said Brewers suck. Give me a candy bar. Okay.
Yeah. He walked right up. He was full. He walked up and he was like, "Is this the Brewers household?" And I was like, "No, dude, I don't know what you're talking about." And he was like, "I do, I know." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "Brewers suck." And I was like, "Where's your dad?" And he was like, "Right there in the white hat." And I was like, "Hey, dude, gotta work on something here, man. Like, let's get some like trick or treat, happy Halloween, something." I was like, "Dude, these kids."
Yeah, thanks for
Then
the
they try
candy
and come
bar.
back, and then the worst part is they try and come back to your house like you don't have a memory.
Like
"Hey,
autograph
man."
hounds.
Yeah, like, "Hey, dude, you were already here." "No, I wasn't. That was my brother." "Nice try, dude. You're the only dude that looks stupid out here today. Like, I know who you are."
That's why full candy bar. You get punished for it. Rowdy, good shit, dude. Keep us posted on the Pilates and the off-season plans. Maybe AJ will go out there and do a class with you. That would be a great auction item
Oh,
at a
neat.
We
charity.
could do something in spring training. We can instruct a class.
Ooh. I don't
Instruct
want to show
make
you up,
lures.
though.
Do
Yeah,
it.
that's fun. We're gonna be the instructors. I'll be the hands-on. You can be up there showing them. We'll get Yelly to buy all the stuff for us. Our contractor. But
Done. Book
and
it.
we'll do it.
I'm telling our producer. Rowdy, cheers, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, talk to you later, guys. Good to see y'all.
You too.
I look at Chris Young leading the Rangers right now, and I wonder if he's going to start a trend for people in that spot. I mean, Craig Breslow is a former pitcher in the bigs. Are we going to get like this wave again of players that kind of hop into front office and lead the charge? Obviously, you have to be able to communicate with many different types of people these days, more than ever, probably, to speak different languages of, players, coaches, analytics office, R&D, whatever you want to call it, right? I'm wondering if people are going to be looking for a Chris Young out there in his style.
The Red Sox just did. You mentioned it, Scott. They hired Breslow, and Breslow, of course, is a former major league pitcher like Chris Young. So obviously it's a copycat game. We know that, and I would expect that teams will look for pitching expertise, as probably they always have. The greater question for me is how do you bring back the starting pitcher? And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The commissioner has addressed it. The obvious way is to reduce the size of a staff. That way you need more innings out of your starters because you don't have as many pitchers to go to. This needs to happen. And last night was, by today's standards, not an unusual game, but really by the breadth of history, when you look at the game over the decades, it's a very unusual game. And it's not a healthy thing for the sport. Just kept running out relievers, and cycle through that way. And really, both teams were kind of in that position. Obviously, the Rangers got more length out of Heaney, but Tyler Kepner wrote a really good article today in The Athletic, essentially saying this is not what a World Series game should be about. I would like to see the game get back to the point where starting pitching is valued again. And yes, it is more expensive. But you know what? You'd rather buy a ticket to see a good starting pitching matchup than a bullpen game. So maybe you get the money back that way.
And now, back to foul territory.
What's up, people? Braun Przynski Kratz back on Stadium. Your BetMGM locks. We're going to close the book. We'll talk about offseason props and who's favored to win next year and all that stuff. But we can look how we did at the finish line here. I finished pretty cold, actually. But there's all your lines there. Arizona for Todd Father did not win. Obviously, he wanted them to win by 3 or more. I think the winner from yesterday was Corey Seager nailing a walk for AJ at the buzzer and bringing him almost back to life in the positive, AJ. That was not just his last at-bat, right? But that was 0-2 to a walk for Corey Seager. And Kratz, congrats. You dominated. 5 hundo, up over $3,000 on the year. If someone just followed your roller coaster journey, they would be very happy today, I would say.
I'm excited for next season to see what I've learned, see how I can put it into motion. But if I'm going to give the Corey Seager Award out to anybody for the playoffs, AJ Burnett. AJ Przinsky. AJ Przinsky was absolutely on fire all playoffs. You are the Bruce Bochy. You are the Nate Evaldi. You are the.
I just got to get there. Kraft.
Don't let you in the playoffs because
just
you
got to
were
get
hot.
there.
You were pulling some picks out of hats and like, oh, that looks neat. Go for it.
With like 7-piece parlays that would come together. Would come together literally in the 9th inning. Like last night, Corey Seager down 0-2, and I'm like, damn it, he's not going to get his walk. And then all of a sudden, 4 pitches later, yes, that's a 1250 spot.
I will pay attention to that for next year. Don't follow AJ during the regular season, but postseason AJ is a different beast. The code to use right now in the BetMGM app, bet 10, get 200 using the code FOUL200. Place your first BetMGM sports wager through that app of at least $10, and you'll receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll come back and we'll go over the poll question for the very, very early prediction on who's going to win next year, which includes BetMGM odds on who's the favorite.
Yeah, when you obviously in every World Series, there's a guy that gets hot and carries the team. Like I remember when Big Papi did it against us Cardinals back in 13. You're like, man, don't pitch to him. It's one of those things where you don't want one guy to beat you, and he's obviously doing his thing right now. So I think that you're looking at a point going into the rest of the series where I'm sure the pitching coach, I know Strom very well. He's going to figure out a plan to make sure he's not the one hurting you. But then you got the Simeons of the world and stuff like that. There's a lot of depth there and a lot of guys that can hurt you. But obviously pick out one guy and make sure he's not the guy that hurts you. And that's going to be most likely their plan moving forward. And when a guy's like that, there is no holes to do anything. You just got to make sure don't let anyone on in front of him, so you can just put him on first and it doesn't load the bases. They are obviously going through everything that they need to go through in the off season, the way they want to set up the team for next year. There's been a little communication that there's still some thoughts of hopefully that I can be around, but they have to do their job. They're still finishing up what they want it to look like, and obviously how they want it to look like payroll wise and stuff like that. So it's a wait and see, how those things go. I enjoyed my time in LA. I learned a lot. You had a lot of fun, a lot of good teammates there. So, hopefully I get the opportunity to be back, and that's the hope right now. And if they don't pick up the option, then you pivot and, see what's available out there in the market. And that's all you can do. Especially, in this game, everybody knows it's a business. So you just got to kind of roll with it and see how it goes.
And now back to foul territory.
What's up? We're back and we're live. If you're watching us right now on Stadium or on Stadium's YouTube, Braun Przinsky Kratz, Hour 2 on Foul Territory's YouTube channel. We'll start off with our friend Evan Grant from the Dallas Morning News on exactly what is going on sip by sip during the Rangers celebration right now. We'll get the sip by sip from him. And let's close up our poll question right now. The favorite to win the 2024 World Series, updated stats for you. The Braves are in first, others in second, Rangers in third, and Dodgers and Astros are barely getting any votes right now. The Braves are favored according to BetMGM at the moment. I think last I checked, they were plus 650 this morning. Where would you guys go?
I'm thinking Bravos for me. Listen, we don't know what's going to happen. Here's the problem. We don't know where Shohei's going to end up. We don't know what the Dodgers are going to do. They won 100 games this year with not really a typical Dodgers team. We don't know, health of Bueller, health of some of these other guys. So I would say right now with what we're looking at, the Braves have to be the favorite because of who they have locked up and the ability to also bring in some other people. So Braves, I'm surprised the Phillies weren't kind of in there also. But yeah, for me, it's Atlanta.
Phillies are top 5 because I was complaining about that on the post game last night. They're plus 1,100. I feel like BetMGM is already banking on the Dodgers either signing Ohtani or signing everyone else because they're in second at plus 800 at the moment. So they're going to have a busy offseason.
I love seeing the Padres at plus 1,600. I get deked into these high pluses, but it's already decided who's going to win. The last 3 years, and this isn't Will Smith, the last 3 years, the Phillies have opened with the Braves, the Astros, except because of the lockout, it got pushed. So their first game was supposed to be the Astros. And you know who they opened with this year?
Who?
The Rangers. So they opened the season with the past three world championships. You know who they open with next year?
No. Who?
The 2024 World Series champions, Atlanta Braves.
Boom. There you go. It's very possible. I want to sneak this in on the other side. There are 5 teams that are plus 5 figures. The A's are plus 50,000. The Rockies are plus 25,000. Royals plus 20,000. Nationals plus 15,000. Matched with one other team that's plus 15,000. Who do you think it is?
White Sox.
White Sox. Should I put $100 down to win 15 G's?
They're winning it all next year. You heard it here first. They're winning it all next year.
Which team has the best chance out of those 5?
Nationals.
I think the White Sox because of the division, if they spend money, which they won't, but if they do, because of the division only. The Nationals are in the NL East. That's a tough division. Braves, Phillies, Marlins. We didn't even mention the Mets. It's a tough division.
You're right. No, I have to agree kind of by default, the White Sox, just based on the AL Central being pretty trashy. All right, we'll come back and we'll talk AL West and how dominant it was this year. Evan Grant on the Rangers party.
So I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's do it. Hour 2 of FT Live on the Foul Territory YouTube channel. I was like, he better be smiling or at least, maybe a little sleepy. Hopefully had an adult beverage or two covering a team that finally won a World Series. Evan Grant from the Dallas Morning News joining us right now. Evan, have at it, man. What do you have to say for yourself and what you just saw this year?
It was pretty amazing, guys. It really was. I think I've been covering baseball 30 plus years, and to finally actually cover a team that went wire to wire and won a world championship was it was a fun ride. This team, there were a lot of times that it was easy to think this team was done with the number of injuries that they had, the September that they went through, and the road they were going to have to take in the playoffs. And they just seemed to be up to every challenge. They really did. It's just remarkable to me that a team went 11-0 in the postseason. I just can't. It's still hard to fathom. I watched every game, and it's still hard to fathom that a team could do that.
Evan, so Scott has this narrative that writers and people that cover the team, they don't root for the team. Well, thank you for squashing that by saying we finally won the World Series. I can't believe that I was a part of this. So thank you for squashing the narrative. I know you're a Rangers fan deep down. You want them to be good. So thank you, Evan.
I didn't say we. I think I said I got the covered. I don't think I said I was a part of the team. But, AJ, I'm always happy to fit into your narrative, whatever it may be. I will say this. Chris Young did kind of like hug me in the middle of the field last night. And I just felt like a big moppet there while he was hugging me. I wasn't sure what to do.
So did you both open champagne? Did you pop a bottle and pour it on yourself?
No, there was no bottle popping on my part. I did get doused a little bit, but I think more of my friends in the clubhouse, like Emily Jones and Jared Sandler from the radio network, they got it a lot worse than I did. But hey, listen, it's fun to cover a World Series team. I work for the people out here who want to read about this team. I know that they're Ranger fans, and I know that they want to see this team win. And so to see the joy walking around the street in Phoenix on the way back to the hotel, seeing the people that I saw in the stadium last night wearing Ranger uniforms. And listen, I want to give a special shout out because on the field after the game last night, ran into Kip Fagg, the scouting director, and Mike Grouse, who's the scout who signed Ian Kinsler, the scout who signed Travis Hafner, and they're the two longest employees in baseball operations with the Rangers. And those guys have been there over 30 years. They've been through it. They've been through the really hard times. And to see the pride and the joy and the level of contentment on their faces was really something special for me.
Will you cover another World Series championship with this team? Do they have an opportunity, or will they go back again, or will the narrative of the September, they were able to get back from that narrative? Things had to line up. I know they went 11-0 and on the road, but will you cover another World Series championship in Texas?
Hey, Eric, right? Winning championships is hard, right? That's what I tell people all the time. I think this team is in position to contend for a very long time. I think Chris Young has made it clear he didn't want to just win the first World Championship in Texas. He wanted to win multiples. They don't have a lot of free agents coming off of this roster. They should hopefully get a healthy Max Scherzer next year. By the end of the year, they should get a healthy Jacob deGrom. You take that into the playoffs, and if those guys' innings are pretty well managed, you're going to be in good shape. And that's not to mention Nathan Eovaldi, who set a record for most wins by a starter in this playoff run. But everything does have to line up. You do have to avoid injuries. You do have to avoid some bad stumbles. What I saw a nucleus of really good talent. The free agents that they signed in Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, they are rock solid. The young players that they have coming through, Josh Young, Evan Carter, Jonah Heim, those guys are pretty talented. If the Rangers start to develop a little bit of pitching from their own farm system, and that's been the one place they have lacked, I think this organization is going to have the ability to both develop and grow their own talent. And I think they showed this year that they've got the money to spend on free agents if they need to finish something out. I think the one thing they're going to have to do this offseason to really address is they probably do need to bolster the bullpen a little bit. I do think Jose Leclerc and Josh Sborz did absolutely incredible work during the postseason, but those were two guys that over the course of the regular season, you didn't know exactly what you were getting from week to week.
So, Evan, I feel like about half the ownership groups care first about winning and then making money second, and half it's probably about flipped. I feel like more than ever, there are, people in our game that are rooting really hard for certain situations. They don't want the Mets, Padres, Rangers, teams like that to succeed for what they do. And, it makes their ball club look cheap because they don't get to profit as much if they have to spend on players, and that turns into winning. I'm curious what this will do to the sport in your mind, if anything. Will it change anything in the sport? Because it was a fun narrative for many teams to be able to be like, well, most free agents don't really work out and don't lead to anything. Oh, okay, Max Scherzer, and you just didn't have a lot of great examples. And there were many examples of like the Cano, Pujols type signings that really didn't lead to much and cost teams a ton of money. Corey Seager and Marcus Semien flat out worked out for this team. And yes, there are a number of other signings. Some worked out, some didn't. But just looking at those two and how they bought a middle infield, that gives them as much stability as it does, and players that are in the prime of their career leading to a World Series contender. How do you think that is received within the rest of the industry?
Well, I do think, and I'd be interested to hear what Eric and AJ have to say on this, but I do think that the last CBA did put a little bit more incentive on teams to try and compete, and did incentivize winning more than it had been. So I don't know if the Rangers in specific will be the ones that drive the industry, but I do think the industry is cycling back towards, hey, let's try to win here. I think there's incentive right now for Seattle to try and push forward. Certainly, Houston doesn't want to fall behind the Rangers if we're just talking about teams in the division. I don't think the Mets are going to. The Mets may rebuild over 1 year, but I don't think it's going to be a long-term time where they go without spending. I do think there's incentive to spend, and I do think that, quite frankly, it has been cycling more towards teams that are trying to win and fewer teams that are simply pleading poor. There are teams that do have to make do with a little bit lesser payroll, and if you can be successful that way, hey, great. Tampa Bay is a great example, but the Rays may need to add some pricier pieces to get over that hump and go to the World Series again.
They're an example of, like you said, of success, but not a World Series yet. Like you may need that extra priciness. Speaking of prices, who do you see getting locked up first? Adolis, Carter, or Heim? Are, to me, the top three that are on there.
Young. What about Young?
Yeah, we should throw Young into that too, I think. I mean, I
okay, yeah, that's fair.
My guess right now would probably be Heim. He and Adolis are both arbitration eligible this
Right.
winter.
That's what I was thinking about.
And I think that Jonah's probably going to be the most, I don't want to say club friendly. I just think it's going to be the most realistic one that they can do. Josh Young is a Boris client, so that's not going to probably take place anytime soon. Evan Carter, they may want to give a full year of experience to before they see exactly where they go. And Adolis, I think, he's going to be coming off that oblique injury. That's not a long-term injury. But I do wonder if they'll just let that one, especially with Wyatt Langford potentially sitting there in the wings, I wonder if they'll let that play out a little bit.
Okay. Evan, I want to take you back to what you said about the scouts that have been part of the team for a long time. And I love that. I'm also thinking about the top of the front office. So Chris Young takes over, but it hasn't been very long. And I know he shouted out John Daniels, which I think was cool. So two-part question here. One, how do you think John Daniels feels like when you've been running an org for a long time and you built a lot, but then you didn't get to see the job finished as the head honcho? Do you think there is it bittersweet? Do you think, knowing him and his personality and covering him for a while, that he is genuinely happy and can take at least some of the credit here and take it as a win? And then I'll ask you the other part.
I think John is happy for a lot of the people that are still in the front office are people he brought in, including Chris Young. And I think John is extremely happy for that group. And I think he's extremely happy for this group of players, many of whom he oversaw the acquisition of. I do think there's certainly that level of melancholy that, listen, you would like to have been a part of this. You would like to have checked that box off. And I do think that this is a guy who understands also that this is a business. He had 17 years running that front office. I think he feels like he got a fair shot. I think he feels like they came close and they just didn't get it done. And right now it's more important for him to be happy for the people there. Josh Boyd is one of the guys that he hired when he first came in. He's now an assistant GM. He oversaw pro scouting. The guy was on the field in tears last night. I mean, wiping away tears of joy. And those are the kind of stories. Knowing who JD is, I don't think he can be anything but overjoyed for those people, and any kind of individual feelings, I think he's able to suppress at this point.
Okay, so the second one is hypothetical and interesting, and I feel like you'd be the one to have some insight here, and there's no right answer. But do you think the Rangers win the World Series if Chris Young is not leading the front office in the way that he did? How much did you see change? Obviously, there were plenty of transactions since. Sometimes a team wins and you're like, oh, the last, management did basically everything during a rebuild and this person takes over. No, they did a lot. This roster, even in a year, has had a ton of turnover. And then I'm just curious in terms of philosophy, what Chris Young brought to the table in the front office that maybe they weren't doing. That even John Daniels said they feel like they felt a little behind the curve in some ways.
And I think, Scott, I do think that they had started to catch up on a lot of that stuff. In particular, where they drafted. And in 1920 and going forward, I think their drafts have been a lot better. They produced Young, they produced Carter, they produced Wyatt Langford, and I think they changed a little bit of their approach on the draft. I think that when you talk about what Chris Young brings to the table, it's a real unique skill set because you are talking about the best of the analytics era guys, right? You're talking about an Ivy League educated guy, but you're also talking about a guy who spent 12 years in the major leagues as a pitcher. So he's got both ends of the spectrum. And for what they needed to do and selling the pitchers that they needed to sell on coming here and buying into the vision, I think Chris was the right guy at the right time to kind of finish off some of those deals. I do think it was also made a little bit easier to sell guys on coming to Texas and pitching when you've got a retractable roof and it's 72 degrees inside all the time. You weren't going to sell Jacob deGrom on that 2 years ago if you didn't have that stadium. So I think that was a big part of it, and that functioned well for Chris as well. I go back to this. I think John and Chris made a really good team. I think Chris is really strong as a visionary, and I think he's put that to use. And I think that this team is positioned to go forward in a very dynamic way. But you're at the outset of your contention window, and Chris's goal is we want to keep this open long term. Everybody's goal is that we want to keep this open long term. It becomes a challenge as Eric just went through. We went through the young guys that are going to be potential extension candidates, go through all the guys that they've got coming up through arbitration, and you go through the number of contracts they've got. It becomes more of a challenge to balance all that. But they are in a great position right now, and I think that there's a lot of baseball that's looking at them, looking at that stadium, looking at the talent that they've got there, looking at what their farm system has produced, and is saying this team does have the ability to be the next kind of dynasty coming out of the American League.
My thing is the division is, I would say, underrated because I actually think the AL West was the best division in baseball this year. And there are arguments to be made for NL East, NL West, AL East, which did not show up in the playoffs this year. I'm almost looking, say, at the end of the season when the Rangers didn't play well against the Mariners. And I'm like, yeah, the Mariners can pitch. I mean, they just throw talented arms with stuff at you over and over. And yeah, they didn't build their offense well enough and they didn't go for it like the Rangers, and they were punished for that. But between them and what Houston did, obviously the Angels are more of a mid-level team, but at least you're still going up against the best player in baseball. It's not a pushover per se. I just thought the AL West was dominant. Do you feel like you can say confidently that was the best division in baseball without obviously some bias to seeing them more than others?
Well, I did see them more than others, but I also thought that, yes, the AL West was underrated, and you did have the defending world champions, and you did have two playoff teams because Seattle made the postseason last year. The Mariners rotation might be the best in the American League. It's really good. Travis Jankowski, I kept trying to get guys to give me some kind of insight into what set this team off on such a good road run going into the playoffs. And Travis brought up that the four pitchers they faced in Seattle at the end of the year may have dominated them, but they also set them up well to say, if we face these four guys, we're not going to face four guys any tougher than the group we faced in Seattle. So yeah, Seattle's positioned well too. I do think, you mentioned one thing a second ago about the Rangers going for it. And that's another element I think that needs to be brought up on Chris Young, and having been in a position as a player to have won with Kansas City. And I think he understood just how precious the idea of winning and fully capitalizing on where you were in the course of a season was. They did that with Scherzer and Montgomery. Look what a boon Jordan Montgomery turned out to be for this club. So it's a very strong division. I think it's going to continue to be a strong division. Certainly the A's are doing nothing but piling up top draft picks. And, they seem to cycle through where every six years or so, they end up with a really talented group. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very strong division, potentially for years to come. I don't know if that's going to sit well with all my East Coast friends, but I think it is a very strong division.
Have you seen the ball? Have you seen the final out ball?
Eric, I saw it. I haven't seen it in person other than on the field. I think Jonah dropped it right after the call third strike. Then he went back and retrieved it. It was a weird kind of like final out. I don't know that Josh Sborz thought that he had actually executed the pitch and got it in the strike zone. And he kind of like started to walk back, and then he got the call, and all that set everything off. And I did see the ball kind of pop out there, and I think they went back and retrieved it. But I have not seen the final out ball with my own eyes in the clubhouse. And quite frankly, with as much champagne as was being sprayed down there, I'm not sure that anybody was seeing anything very clearly.
Hey, what's the wildest story from an individual player this year that made an impact for this team to win a World Series? I'll bring up two candidates. I mean, you can fill in the blanks if you want on them, but Sborz to me stands out for the wild ride that he had. It's not like we were looking at this dude like, oh, here's a stud high leverage reliever when we were entering the season. And then one of my favorite tweets from last night was, I think it was Tim Healy who said, who would have thought that of the former Mets, not DeGrom, not Scherzer, but Travis Jankowski makes the biggest impact in the World Series for this team?
And they're both great stories. And they kept Josh Sborz on this roster all winter after a poor season last year, basically because of metrics, because his curveball played up so high on all their data, because his fastball, when he commanded it, played up so high. He had an awful spring training, and I didn't think he was going to make the roster. Then he had a good start to the season. Got hurt, came back, struggled. I thought in September he gave up, I think it was 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning to Houston, and it was the end of a horrible stretch. And I thought, there's no way this guy pitches in a leverage situation again for this team. And what does he do? He rolls off a 0.75 ERA in the postseason, 340 OPS. And it is just an example of, how unpredictable bullpens are. Sborz and Leclerc had their ups and downs all during the season. They were rock solid in the postseason for this club. As for Jankowski, listen, I think anybody who's been around Travis thinks he's a really endearing player, a really good guy to be around, good personality, a good clubhouse guy. The question has always been, could he hit? I think Donnie Ecker really liked Donnie Ecker, the hitting coach or bench coach and offensive coordinator, really liked the possibilities of what Jankowski could do from the left-hand side. I think they spent a lot of time with spring training with him, even though he didn't get results. And listen, this was a guy who still wasn't going to make the roster until it became clear that Rowdy Tellez. Here's right. This is a great beginning and ending story. The season began with Rowdy Tellez on the IL because of an oblique, and that's why Jankowski made the roster. It ended with Adolis Garcia unavailable because of an oblique, and that's why Jankowski was playing right field in the last 2 games of the World Series. So he's been a great story. I think there's so many guys on this team that won for the first time, guys who have been around. Look, even Brad Miller didn't play in the last 2 months of the season. And this was a guy last night so thankful to be around this club and to be involved in what they were doing. And I have to mention Robbie Grossman as well. This is a guy who's played in the big leagues for 10 years. He's been with a lot of teams that haven't won. He cherished this. And there were a lot of guys. And I think this is part of why the Rangers were as good as they were down the stretch or in the postseason. There are a lot of guys here who really cherish the opportunity to win.
Evan, Armand in the chat wanted to know, and I want to know also, is re-signing Montgomery the number one priority? Do you think the Rangers make that a big priority for him?
My guess, AJ, at this point, if you've got DeGrom and you've got Scherzer, you've got two guys basically making $60 million between the two of them. I think Jordan Montgomery has pushed his price point per year well above 20 million with the run he had in August and September and the postseason. I do think that this club's biggest need is a really reliable closer. I don't know if they're now convinced that by picking up Leclerc's option, that's the way they want to go. But I think the first thing that they will look at is how can we really fortify this bullpen. I think that's their first priority this offseason.
So can we say Hader? Hader to the Rangers? Evan Grant just broke?
Yeah, I just broke that.
Yeah, right.
Let's throw this out there. They like to make deals with the Mets. If Edwin Diaz is healthy, why not go get Edwin Diaz?
I love that. Hey, let's finish with this because it's fresh. I think it just came out in the last, within the hour, maybe even while we were on. I'm seeing people say that on FT host Adam Jones pod, he has Nelson Cruz on, who said that he's retiring. So you could kind of see that coming in this last year and a half or so. Obviously, he was able to perform at a high level for a while. So wanted to get your take on Nelson Cruz as the player. If you think he's going to be, I don't know, a manager, a part of baseball, Pujols is now one of the league guys, and also what you think his reputation is like outside of Texas, because obviously he's beloved there, but he did have, he was caught using steroids.
And there was that one play in 2011 that didn't get made. Listen, I think that talking to Adrian Beltre last night, talking to Michael Young, talking to Ian Kinsler, all members of the 2011 team, I think they all felt like this win last night took some burden off that 2011 team that didn't get it done. And I think a lot was placed unfairly on Cruz in that situation because he was the guy that didn't make that catch. And so, maybe it is appropriate that the Rangers close this chapter, win the World Series, and Nelson officially says he's going to hang it up. I think he will be involved in baseball. He's certainly, I don't know if I should even say this, but there's certain people that are involved as the face of baseball who have had some, what should we say, some PED situations in the past. And certainly Nelson has done a good job of rehabilitating his image. He's been involved with the Dominican team in the WBC. And I think everywhere he's gone, people have thought this is a genuinely good human who, got involved in some stuff that he shouldn't have gotten involved in, but he has a lot to offer. And he was a good teammate here. His teammates liked him. He was good for the young Latin players. And I think there will be a place for Nelson Cruz in baseball.
By the way, I think you can say that because it's not speculation. It's actually stuff that's been proven, if you know what I'm saying, where there's other guys that still fight that they didn't do it.
I listen, I don't want to say anything about anybody. I don't like to stir up controversy except with AJ.
I didn't do steroids, Evan. I'm just saying.
Breaking news. If you didn't know,
I thought you guys would want to talk about all the hot dogs that these guys decided that they were going to eat on the road over the final month of the season. They got very involved in eating hot dogs for some reason.
The Rangers did?
The Rangers did, yeah. Mitch Garber told me in Toronto when they were in the throes of despair, guys started eating a bunch of hot dogs off of the roller in the clubhouse there. And it kind of became a tradition on the road over the rest of the regular and postseason, to the point where they ordered 50 hot dogs on Sunday night to Chase Field from Five Guys and all chowed down right after their workout.
How weird! How 90s?
I thought it was Creed. I thought it was Creed
and hot dogs, AJ.
Creed and hot
so
dogs.
I asked
baby.
Josh Schwartz about this after Monday night's game, and I said, "What is it? What is the deal with you guys? Creed and hot dogs?" And he said, "Yeah, we're a strange group."
They're not Gen Z. I'll tell you that.
Definitely not.
Evan, I know that. By the way, I know that the Diamondbacks put out people to block them from the pool. But if I'm the Rangers, I'm like, listen, bro, arrest me. I'm going in that bitch. I did bring this up, and I said to Michael Young, who was a member of the Dodgers in 2013, right? That was his last year. Yep. That was the group that went and dove in the pool first time, and I think that
They set that standard, and I think that the Diamondbacks very much do not want that to happen again. And I think that the 2013 Dodgers are very proud that they took such measures that the Diamondbacks had to put security out there to keep the Rangers from jumping in the pool. I think everybody was just happy last night to drink their champagne, to toast themselves, and to go on with a job well done. They went back to the hotel. They partied there. I don't know if there was a pool there that they could jump in, but I think they had their fun. Let's put it that way.
Yep. That's a good point, though, AJ, because we've talked about it. I mean, Paul Sewald's on the show all the time, and he said, I mean, he's not in charge, obviously, but he's a player. He's like, hey, if they win, they can jump in our pool. Like, that's their right. But he's not in charge.
No. They were having none of it. I mean, it was the strongest show of security I've seen in a ballpark since like the horseback cops in Yankee Stadium after the World Series.
And
wow.
One of the players needed to like sneak through the bullpen, like sneak around through the stands and like cannonball off the top rope or something. But where Evan, where are they going to do the parade? Are they going to do it in Arlington? Or are they going to do it in Dallas?
It's going to be in Arlington tomorrow.
Because it's kind of a weird. It's kind of a weird setup because you have Dallas and Fort Worth, right? And then you have Arlington in the middle. So you can't go from like Dallas to Fort Worth and in Arlington. It would take you 2 days to do that. So it's kind of a weird setup. I want to see how they do it. They're
going to do it basically from Six Flags, I think, around all the stadiums. That's basically what the downtown of Arlington looks like, is a bunch of stadiums. So they'll twirl around all the stadiums down there. And then I do think before it's all over with, and look, I think most of the guys are going to get out of here who don't live here this weekend. But I think there will be some degree of a celebration with a smaller group that's still around in Dallas and probably in Fort Worth. But listen, that's a challenge that this club always had, was what would you do if you won? How would you celebrate? How would you involve everybody? It's a problem that they are happy to try and solve right now.
All right, so last thing, is there going to be, because when we won in 2005, we had Steve Perry show up, the Journey singer, and we sang Don't Stop Believin'. Are they going to have Creed show up, Scott Stapp, and they're going to sing Higher?
They had Scott Stapp and Creed there for game 3 or 4 of the LCS. I don't know if they're coming back in. Look, all I know about that, AJ, is that the Rangers bring Creed back to the public senses, the public sense of domain, and the next thing you hear is Creed starting a 2024 North American tour. So who knows? Maybe they will get them in there. It'll be interesting, but I think that I think they've done enough at this point in time to bring Creed back to the public consciousness.
Yeah, and also I'll finish with this. Where's the All-Star game next year?
All-Star game is in Arlington.
Oh, baby.
Cool. It's a renaissance period right now in Dallas area, Dallas-Fort Worth area for baseball. Man, they're getting it all right now. That's really cool.
It's going to be yeah, and listen, I think people haven't been to an All-Star game in a while. They don't know quite what they're missing. It's become such a big spectacle and such a big celebration of the game. And I think the Rangers are going to hit a home run here because of what they've done this year and brought interest back to the sport here in the Metroplex.
We'll be there. We'll be there out there for the Midsummer Classic. Evan, great to see you, dude. Get some
rest. Have food for me, Evan.
Rested.
Have food for me, you cheapskate. Not hot dogs.
I bought you a giant beef rib the last time.
You did. It was like bigger than Scott's head. It was like this big.
I will bring you more food. I will bring you a barbecue platter when you get here.
Okay.
His head's bigger.
Well, but your hair's higher.
Yeah, my hair's higher.
Bochy's an 8 1/8. The Hall of Fame took his hat last night. It's an 8 1/8.
They took his hat and all the other stuff, and they put all the other stuff in his hat to take it to the Hall of Fame.
They did take, one of the artifacts that they took was they took Will Smith's luggage tag because, as we mentioned, 3 different World Series teams in 3 different years, and so they thought the appropriate artifact from Will Smith would be his luggage tag.
That's true, and also we talked about him earlier. That actually should be their top offseason priority. If you want to win a World Series, it starts with Will Smith. Whatever the hell he does, we'll get him. We're going to get him on soon. So, Evan, really appreciate it, man. Enjoy the ride there, covering the last few days of the celebrating and everything else, and we'll talk again, I'm sure, in the offseason when they sign, Ohtani and everybody else.
Peace, guys. Take care.
Cheers. Evan Grant, Dallas Morning News. We'll post his Twitter. Great follow, obviously, and some of those clips, too, if you want to watch them back. Okay, we got a few things to handle, starting with some viral clips from the World Series. So your baseballer viral clips of the week are here for you. We're going to do one on the Diamondback side and one on the Rangers side. We will start with Arizona, both of these fresh from the past 24 hours. Torey Lovullo speaking after the game about the team.
I felt that. I've been feeling that for the past month, maybe even the last couple of weeks of the regular season, that this fan base was behind us, and they were ready to go at every turn to root us on, cheer us on, and allow something good to happen. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry I didn't do my job to get us there. But I will. We all will. And we know they're out there. We love them. They can say what they want to us in the good times and the bad, but we know what they want. They want a world championship as badly as we do. We all bleed Sedona.
Hey, Corey, I'm just going to ask you the question that I get texted most, and especially this whole series. Why did the Dodgers let you go?
Other questions? We'll go to Evan.
I don't have an answer. Corey, where's the first MVP trophy?
Wow. All right, so we got him back to back there. Let's start with Corey, because that one obviously got more attention, both from Baseballer there and some of the comments from people on the clip on the Baseballer on IG. What a horrible question. W reporter L Dodgers, clown question, bro. Who cares about the Dodgers right now? He was not in the budget. Awesome question. Shade to the Dodgers. So this might be not a hot take, but an unpopular take. I don't think it was a bad question. I mean, you don't start there, but I definitely don't think it deserved to be next question. It wasn't inappropriate by any means. Like, you were a superstar on a team. They didn't sign you. You know what I'm saying? Like, do we have to sit in a post-game press conference with someone who we rarely get access to? He doesn't do many interviews in general. He doesn't like them. He's a nice guy. He's just not comfortable in front of the camera. Is someone in their very, very spare time that they're allowed to actually talk to Corey Seager allowed to ask him, hey, you're a top 5 hitter in the sport? Like, and if he just says, hey, it's all good, I had a great time there, and now I'm pumped to win a World Series, it's over. But they made it more of a thing. Next question and making it awkward, AJ, am I missing something? Like, yeah, sure, it's not the world's best question, but does everybody have to sit there and go, hey, how do you feel? How amazing is this? And he's going to go, oh, it's great. You know, I love my teammates. Like, boring.
Two things. One, that's a clown question, bro, because you're talking about the Rangers. You want to ask him that away from everybody. You don't need to ask him that right after they won the World Series. Like, he's last thing he's thinking about. And then two, did you hear who they called on right after? Our boy Evan Grant. They're like, okay, next question. Evan will ask something good. So here, Evan, why don't you ask him something that he'll care about? But I mean, listen, I just thought it was bad timing. I don't know if it was the first question Corey Seager was asked, but there's really no point in asking that. It's just more one of those questions that are like, I want to just make things super awkward right now. And whoever asked that question, you nailed it.
Okay, but let me ask it to you. Like, when you, let's say, you know, after you win the World Series, you're in the post-game presser, right? And 6 questions in, hey, let's take one from Braun. What's up? Hey, AJ, you were great on the Twins. Do you ever think, man, they should have kept me? What would your answer be? Right away.
Yeah, they should have, but they fucked up and traded me. So that's their own fault.
That's it. I mean, that's awesome.
But here's the difference. I'm much more comfortable, and I was much more comfortable talking to people than Corey Seager is. Corey Seager's a really nice guy. I've talked to him, had many conversations with him when I do Ranger games. Hello to him, talk to him a little bit here and there. But he's not that guy. He's not the guy that's going to throw himself out there. So you have to understand there has to be a feel from the media who they're talking to too. You can't ask Corey Seager the same question you ask Rowdy Tellez, because you're going to get completely different answers. One guy's going to shut it down, and one guy's going to tell you some crazy cockamamie story about him doing Pilates. I mean, it's just the way it is, right?
I know. I get it. I don't think it should be like so shunned. Like, next question. Oh,
I just thought it was great. Corey Seager's like, yeah, clown question, bro. Next. Didn't even. He just like, yeah.
You should have said that. That would have been fun too. I don't know. It's not a big deal. This is where I feel like our sport needs to lighten up, Kratz. Like, I mean, not everybody knows exactly who talks well and who doesn't, and what people's personalities are like. I mean, on this particular team, like, the faces of the team definitely don't love talking to the media. That hurts the sport. I hate to be a broken record on that front, but Corey Seager, I agree. I've spoken to him quite a few times, and I've done interviews with him. He doesn't love doing them, and it sucks because he's a great player, and most people never will have that one-on-one interaction with him. And the way that they can connect with him is through interviews. That's where I feel like the disconnect is. That like there is a 12-year-old baseball player in some random city, not even in Texas, who's never going to get close to Corey Seager, and him hearing about Corey talk about the game or be fun and personable could link that fan to our sport forever.
Then maybe don't ask the question while guys are still sitting down at the podium. Like, if obviously wasn't there, I don't know when that was asked, but there were still guys coming up to the podium. So maybe like that's something later, or maybe something that you ask. He was probably asked this before too.
But you don't get access, Kratz. That's true. Like even talk to some reporters. I spoke to some that are at the World Series, and they said he's the hardest guy to get to.
Then it's the time, but not as your first question or when guys are still settling in. Like,
well, I don't know, but he was sitting already. You know how the podium works. I'm not defending the question that much. Like, obviously, there was a clownness to it. Yeah, it was a while ago and all of that. I'm just saying, like, I don't think it was crazy. And the way those press conferences work, because I've been in freaking 500 of them, the dude sits down, he starts going, then they rotate another guy in, and then eventually one will leave and another will come down. So I wasn't there last night, so I don't know, but I don't think it was the very first question.
Butter him up a little bit first, maybe. I don't know, Kratzy. Butter him up a little bit, ask him something he's a little more comfortable with, and then maybe say, hey, you just won the World Series. Are you going to Disney World?
Hold on. AJ, you sounding weird. We got to fix your mic, dude.
No, I think, I'm not exactly sure what AJ said, but it was something that, he's just going to give the token answers. Like, you never see him do the post home run interview with Verducci or Ken. I think he might as well just mic'd him up. He would have been the post home run interview, as many as he was hitting. Like, you see the answers that he gives. Is that bad for the game? No, it's not bad for the game. It's not. It's okay that Corey Seager puts Seager on the back of his jersey for Players Weekend. Like, his personality is like that. And if you make him go outside of his comfort bubble, to me, there's no value in that. It would be like saying somebody that's super like eccentric and like always out there, hey, like settle down a little bit. Like you're too eccentric. Like, no, like let his personality show. And if he's going to give short answers, if he's always going to say, well, what was it like to win the MVP? Well, my team played really good together and it's just a great group of guys. Like, that's okay, because there's some very, shy kids that like baseball too, and they may connect with that. They may connect with Corey Seager and how he interacts. Don't try to put him in a bubble of, well, he's a top 5 player in the game, so we need him and Mike Trout to put themselves out there more. Not really. I don't think you do. I mean, the thing is not necessarily all on the superstars. Let your personality shine, whether it's extremely awesome personality in your opinion, or a personality that's more vanilla.
Yeah, that's fine. I think just still having accessibility is important, I mean, we want accessibility from owners in the sport too. So I just think, at least being there. And even if you are kind of, whatever you want to call it, vulnerable, and say, hey, listen, I'm not great at this stuff. I don't have the world's biggest personality. I'm not the funniest dude in the clubhouse. I'm kind of quiet. Like, yeah, that resonates. Yeah, I think you could say it, but okay, that's fine. AJ, did you have a thought? Otherwise, I just want to give a quick thought on LaBello. Yeah, we got you good, dude.
I just said butter him up first. Ask him something to get him loosened up before you just, take him to dinner first or something before you go for the jugular. I mean, geez.
There's a technique. Yes.
Yes,
I'm not totally
absolutely.
defending it. I'm also just saying, like, I just didn't think it was such a big deal that it should be like next question. There are some weird ass questions that have been asked that you should move on from. They suddenly asked him about like news or politics or some weird ass thing. Like, that's when you move on. That's not the spot there. But to me, I didn't think it was that bad, but whatever. And then on Lovello, I mean, he got emotional. My one thing is, I don't think he should be apologizing. Like, do you think that Torey Lovello did something wrong and the Diamondbacks would have won, or he probably didn't even totally mean it that way?
I mean, it was clearly emotion, and
Yeah.
I'm all about emotion. And you see, maybe that's the connection he has with his players. I don't think he was emotional about letting the fans down. I think probably in that moment he thinks about moves he should have made, or the fact that they were super close to winning the World Series, and he's emotional about his players and what they're going through. That I can see, but sorry, D-back fans, I don't know that, and I don't know Torey Lovello. I don't know him at all, but if he's getting emotional about the fans in Arizona, I don't know. But he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong. He played the script out like he was told to play it out.
True. Listen, he did the best he could with what he was given, and I think he was emotional because they lost. Saying he didn't get the job done. Well, the manager can only do so much. At a certain point, the players have to produce, and when you don't score runs and you don't make the pitches you need to make, you don't hit with runners in scoring position, it just happens. It was just bad timing. The Diamondbacks made it farther than anybody thought they would. And listen, Torey was emotional. It's right after the game, and when you catch people, super competitive people at highly emotional times, you get raw answers. And he was being honest, and he feels for the fans. We all feel for the Diamondback fans, but someone has to win and someone has to lose. And maybe Torey Lovello and the Diamondbacks get another chance soon.
Yep, well said. We'll see what they do in the offseason too. I mean, like Ken mentioned the other day, they need some thump. They need a little more power in that lineup. And we'll see if that either comes from within or if they pick up a player like that. We got plenty of time to talk about it. So hit up Baseballer on IG or at bsblr.com for more viral moments and some merch there as well on their front. We appreciate working with them all season on some of these standout quotes and fans running on the field, all that shit that we like to talk about and mix up with everyone and use their comments. So thanks for a great season to them. And let's move on to highlighting some individual players performance-wise, your MLB Perfect Inning 23. I'll call it like perfect players. And actually want to just go right back to the dude we were talking about, but on field. Corey Seager wins World Series MVP again. That doesn't happen very often. There's only one other position player. Let's see if I nail this. Kratz probably has it memorized. One other position player that won World Series MVP twice, which is Reggie Jackson. And then there were a couple others that were pitchers, Sandy Koufax, and who's the other one?
He actually hit a homer too, but it was a pitcher, right-handed pitcher, Cardinals. Bob Gibson. Yep.
Nice. Okay. And then Corey, of course, does it on two different teams, which is cool too. And then the one other thing that stands out to me about Corey Seager is his defense, because he's a big dude. And I think we continue to keep this narrative going in the sport that if you are like the best athlete growing up in high school, but you're 6'4" and you move well and you've got pop, you can play shortstop. Corey Seager is an example of that. Corey Seager, when you look at him, looks like a third baseman, but he can play shortstop. And his defense actually this year compared to last year was quite a bit better, not just from the metrics, but also when you talk to people that watched him every day. Obviously, I'm watching, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the Rangers games this year, mixed in with a bunch of other games when you're watching at night. But many people around the Rangers were like, yo, his defense took another step, which is crazy. Great for him. I mean, he's in his upper 20s and he keeps getting better.
He's good. He's a great player. He's a top 5 player in the sport right now, position player wise. I mean, for me, defense, offense, homers, power, clutch moments. We had the argument about the Players' Choice Awards that he could make an argument. He could be right there with Shohei as one of the best position players. So, listen, Corey Seager's a stud, and he just needs to get out there a little bit more and become a bigger star because he could be a mega superstar.
I think about the fact that he made $68 million in the last 2 years, and you watch some of his interviews, and you're like, he's like, whatever. I just wonder what guy that's like has that personality, what he does with $68 million. I don't know why I thought of that.
No, it's a good call.
Whatever he wants. That's
whatever he wants.
Whatever he wants to do with it.
I asked him once, actually. I'm like, what do you like to do for fun? And he said, hang out.
I will say this. He was the first guy I ever saw using the virtual reality. stuff.
I
remember in Fenway, we were
what
in
year
Fenway
was that?
Park. Jeez, he was still with the Dodgers, so they were
I
playing
think it
in
was
Fenway.
like 2018, 19
It was
range.
before the 2020 year. I know that, but he was
was.
with the Dodgers, and in Fenway you have to walk, and there's like part of the clubhouse that's kind of outside. So we walk into the visiting clubhouse, and he was out there with the goggles on, and he was taking swings, and I'm like, I looked at somebody, and I was like, what the hell is he doing? And they're like, oh, you haven't seen that? It's that new virtual reality thing where you can see pitchers live, and I'm like, wait, what? And he was out there for a while, and I was like, that's pretty awesome. And it works for him. So whatever works, Corey.
And I can tell you, because I know the group well, we'll talk about him at another time, but the Dodgers ended up getting it for everybody on the team, especially during COVID. They were like, you can't see pitching, so let's do this instead. All right, on the video game front, back to MLB Perfect Inning 23 and highlighting more players from this past World Series in addition to Seager. So who else made a big name for themselves? Like, I'll give you one more name on my end. Gabriel Moreno looks like a star. I mean, for what he does behind the plate, he's super young. And you guys can talk to this way better than I can, so I'm barely going to say anything besides, I mean, he's got the hit tool. He looks like a 20-something home run bat. Not many flaws in his game. There's his 2023 stats. I mean, he hit 284 as a catcher, 339, low 400 slug, and wasn't supposed to be the everyday guy right from the jump because they had Carson Kelly, but he just took over, and now he looks like a franchise catcher. And for me, I'm preaching to the choir here. I think it's the most important position to have a consistent contender, is to have someone like this. Like, to me, Kratz, there's about 10 catchers in the league that stand out for what they do behind the plate, and then most of them can at least provide some offense too, right? Maldonado's kind of in his own world because he hasn't really had the bat for years, but all the Astros always talk about how much of an impact he made. But Gabriel Moreno stands out. Obviously, Jonah Heim does in this series as well. But I think they've got themselves a star, and they completely ripped off the Toronto Blue Jays with that trade to get him and Lourdes Gurriel this year.
I think Dalton Varsho is a really good player. But, yes, anytime, I don't care what you have to give up. If you get a starting catcher in the big leagues and is essentially his first year, I know he was up last year with the Jays, you're coming out on top. And the stuff he does behind the plate, yes, he's going to have to be able to clean up some things, but every year that a catcher is in the game, every year that catcher is the starting catcher, his ability to make game calling, game decisions will only improve. And to me, that'll be the biggest thing, is how does the coaching staff enable him to lead the staff, to lead the pitching staff for the rest of his 6 years while he's there. And I think he made a name for himself in this series. I had heard about him since 2021. The catching coordinator with the Red Sox was talking all about this guy. He was unbelievable. They were just, seeing him in Double-A, the stuff he could do. So I think he'll continue to improve too. I think Merrill Kelly made some people turn their head. I think baseball fans knew who Merrill Kelly was. They knew he was the second head of a two-headed monster down in Arizona, but he really came to life in this series and showed what a strike thrower he is, but also the fact that he can just go ahead and pump a 96, 97 up there, as we heard Max Muncy say, whenever he wants. So he made a huge name for himself that is going to bode well for him. Now, obviously, he's not a baby like Moreno, but this is a guy that, to me, his stuff and his ability to pitch could make him have a long career after he's 30 years old. I think he's 32 now, 30, maybe 33. But anyway, I think he's another guy that came to life on a huge stage here.
Hey, AJ, I think you're going to like this. So I'm a big Brent Strom fan. I know Kratz is. I know you've known him for years too, right? And he was, at least 10 years ago at this point, just all about, hey, four-seamers up in the zone. We got to promote it more, whatever, right? And then the whole league follows that for a while. The new thing that I've been told over the last year or so is, okay, guys are catching up to four-seamers up here. Hitters are able to adjust to that. Let's also work two-seamers at the top of the zone, right, and have multiple fastballs. No,
High
because this is
sinkers
what some
don't
of the
sink.
Diamondbacks did. There's
High
what?
sinkers don't sink.
No, not sinkers. It's called a seam shifted wake. It's a pitch that runs. It's to get the what is it? It's basically the difference. It's the guys that are throwing the sweeper to get more of that distance this way than they're throwing that fastball that has no sink to it. It's running in on the hands. What is that? What is that word? I can't think of the word that they call it. Basically, it's the larger variance from slider to two-seamer. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
I got
what.
you.
That's what. That's what
I haven't heard that, but there's an old saying, Scott: high sinkers don't sink; they go over the fence.
I think they're being mixed in though, because dudes are like, all right, four-seamer up in the zone. I'm going to train myself to this was the Javier thing from the postseason in the ALCS, right? Like I'm going to train myself to think a couple baseballs above. And so they're like, all right, well, if we can get whatever you want to call it, Kratz, a two-seamer, some different movement off your fastball at the top of the zone, that will then counter that approach. This is where I need you guys to help me out. But when I hear it from Brent Strom and from pitching mechanic experts, it makes sense. I just don't know if I'm the guy to explain this, but it made sense. And to me, it just stood out because, and we can show Brandon Fott too. I mean, he was on this list, Merrill Kelly's on this list, and you look and you're like, oh, look, the Diamondbacks are doing something a little bit different. And who's behind that? Brent Strom, of course, who, he's one of the older coaches in the bigs now, but you would think like he is this like new, sharp, analytical mind. I mean, he just, in my mind, is one of the more valuable coaches in the bigs for a long time now. And I think he's a huge reason why the Diamondbacks were able to get this far with their game plans against offenses like Philadelphia, and at least for the first couple games against the Rangers.
Well, when you talk, you've read Evan Drellick's book, Winning Cures Everything, that book about the Astros?
No, I gave it to you, so I haven't read it yet.
Oh, you're bad. There's a whole lot about Brent Strom in there and how he was one of the first guys to embrace analytics in the minor leagues for the Astros, and that's why they eventually promoted him to the big league pitching coach, was because of the way he embraced analytics and the way he was able to explain it to the players on the Astros, Garrett Cole, Verlander, Javier, whoever you want to say. And so that's why, and then when he was let go by the Astros and went to Arizona, now he gets a whole new group of guys to explain some of these things. And you could see it in these games, especially, now listen, they didn't have a whole lot of success in the World Series, but you could see what they were trying to do and how they were trying to attack people. You definitely saw it in the Philadelphia series. So listen, great coaches are hard to find, especially pitching coaches. You get a great one, you should stick with him and keep him around. Look at Mike Maddox for the Rangers. He's been around forever. He's bounced around to different teams. He was with the Rangers back when I was there, and now he's back and he won a World Series. So great pitching coaches are really hard to find. You should stick with them.
Mm-hmm. Good call. And good comment in the chat too about Gallen last night. I mean, they switched up the game plan with him again too, Kratz. I mean, knuckle curve city, baby. That was working. It wasn't his fault that they lost.
I mean, shoot, the no-hitter got broken up on a ball off the cap that squibbed through the side, where the third baseman should have been. And that's, to me, that's what we're talking about with Brent Strom. Yes, okay, Brent Strom's he's going to be able to delve into the analytics. He's going to be able to delve into what it takes to throw a pitch. But all it is people connecting with people. You watch Mike Maddox go out to the mound, and we make fun of him. He puts his hand on his shoulder, and then he holds his mustache, and he goes up here like this, and he's connecting with that pitcher. The people that we've been talking about in all of these situations, all of the good coaching hires, Chris Young, Bruce Bochy, Brent Strom, people that are coming in, they are connecting with people. If you want to be a coach in the big leagues that has success, or if you just want to coach in the big leagues, that's two different things. You're talking about, some of these internet trolls that are getting jobs in baseball because of this gimmick that they want to sell. Ultimately, you can sell whatever you want, but if you don't connect with the player, if you don't connect with these guys, you're going to get nothing out of them. And Brent Strom, I didn't see the interview you're talking about. If he's talking about, hey, you know what? We're going to run this fastball. We're going to use Fott's fastball. run it hard in on guys to make that sweeper a larger variance so it's tougher for hitters to differentiate it, then you know what? He's building that and catering that to Brandon Pfaadt. He can't come in and say, okay, everybody, you need to throw the fastball top of the zone. And this is kind of what we talk about when we talk about organizations that have fallen behind in development. Everybody can't be the same person. And yes, you may have success at a certain level. You may have a success at a certain point, but you have to connect with the guy. If I am not a home run hitter and you're telling me I have to hit home runs to make it to the big leagues, then you're not connecting with the player. So that is the overarching key to making these coaches successful that are on winning teams year in and year out.
That's a great call. That is exactly what's going on right now. There are some orgs that just tell everybody to do the same thing and try to mold the same player. And then there are some that treat everyone like an individual, which that's a great call. It's very true, which we'll get into in the offseason a lot more. A quick step aside, check out what MLB Perfect Inning 23 is bringing to the mix. And then we've got something big to announce after that. Have a look. MLB Perfect Inning 23 is available to download for free. Scan the QR code on your screen, or you can look it up wherever you get your games, your apps on your phone, say. Real-time PvP gameplay with your club members, various MLB legends. There's updated team unis and updated rosters and a whole lot more. Download MLB Perfect Inning 23. All right, so the big announcement, if you're new to the party here or you haven't been paying attention to what we've been going over as far as awards, is that we are going to find out the winners of the Players' Choice Awards tonight. We have the exclusive announcement show on the Foul Territory YouTube channel this evening, 7 o'clock Eastern. We'll be hustling. These guys are involved on some interviews. Todd Frazier is a part of the show. Adam Jones is on the show with myself. So it's going to be cool. And let's actually break down one of the categories right now. So your AL Players' Choice Award breakdown of Outstanding Pitcher finalists, sponsored by Candy Digital. Let's look at the candidates at the moment. Garrett Cole matching up against Sonny Gray. And Kyle Bradish makes this list too. And then we'll look at the National League pitchers in a moment. So I'm curious from you guys if you think that there will be a race for either side. And let's actually show the National League too, so that you guys can kick around either finalists. Justin Steele, Blake Snell, and Zach Gallen on the National League side. Do you think that this will be close in AL or NL at all? And if not, who do you think finishes in second? I know we went over that a little bit on the National League side.
These are the two easiest awards to pick for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Snell and Cole. Whoever finished second, I mean, great for them, but it's Snell and Cole, and the rest are fighting for second place. So
go ahead, say your line. Your Talladega Nights line.
You ain't first or last, Ricky.
I think it's cool that Kyle Bradish ends up on this list, and how many people know who he is yet?
They will. I mean, players know. Players know. Players are sitting there going, oh, dang it. Remember that time we faced Kyle Bradish? I'm putting him down. Check. Sonny Gray. I love seeing Sonny Gray on this list. But for Kyle Bradish to get up on this list, it shows that his stuff is what we as baseball fans, we who watch the game a lot, know who Kyle Bradish is. And the players, I think, to me, the players got it right. And I think he could, because of how nasty his stuff is, I think he could be second on this list.
And you know what? I mean, obviously this was a huge breakout season for him and only his second full season. First off, he was the best pitcher with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. So there was that, whatever you want to call it, clutchness factor to him. Also, I'm looking at what changed because he's got quite a few pitches in the repertoire. As far as the fastball looks, he was mostly just 4-seamer last year, and he kind of split that usage between 4-seam and sinker. So a little bit of going off of what our last combo was, not necessarily top of zone. I'm just saying, are you noticing, AJ, that more guys are kind of Instead of just being a 4-seam guy or a sinker guy, it's like almost everybody has a 4-seam, a 2-seam, and a cutter as part of their pitch mix. And then you move on to what their secondary stuff is.
Well, you have to. You can use, as Lance Lynn and one of our great guests here on Foul Territory, he used to throw a lot of fastballs, but he would throw one that went straight, one that went this way, and one that went this way. And he would throw 100 pitches and throw 95 fastballs. People are like, how does Lance Lynn do it? Well, it was because he threw 3 different ones. It was boom, 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 and then shoot the one up. So it's been around for a while. It's just because we can quantify things with spin rates and angles and efficiency of spin and all these things with the way the Rapsodos and the Acrotex and all these things that we use now. It's changed it, but these 3 pitches have always been around and people have used them different ways. It's just become easier now with the tunneling and the visual and the analytics that we have to make pitchers say, hey, this is why it's effective. You need to do this. So I'm all for it. Listen, the best pitch still in baseball, Kratz, is strike one and a well-located fastball.
Fastball down and away. There's nobody that has a red area, a hot zone down and away. So if you can execute a fastball down and away, you will have a lot of success. To me, Scott, you said about clutchness with Bradish, and I know we're focusing a lot on Bradish. It's Cole's award. We shouldn't eliminate the fact that Cole is going to win this, and he deserves it. And the Yankees are getting more than they bargained for when they got this contract with Cole. He is living up to it and more. But Bradish, it's not clutch. To me, it's a guy that shows he can pitch. I think too many times pitchers come out and they're like, because this is how they got to the big leagues, this is how they got their scholarship to college, they got drafted, because they throw a ball. And they throw it really hard, or they rip this really hard, or they have an unbelievable split, and they listen to coaches that are ill-informed about what happens at the big league level and how to have success, and they say, okay, your splitter's unbelievable. We got to see 80% of them. And 3 months later, they're in the bushes. And Bradish, when guys get on base, to me, it looks like, and this is why he piles up strikeouts on a very consistent basis, it looks like he kicks that into another gear. Kind of like when we talk about Evaldi. Kind of like I remember when facing Yu Darvish back in 14. Like it was like he would just kind of pitch. Oh, it's a big spot right here in the game, guys on base. Yeah, maybe he went to too many breaking balls, but that's another pitch selection. But his stuff was not the same when there was a runner on base. That is what I'm saying roundabout way with Bradish, that he can dial it up to the next level when he really needs it and get that punch out. And he's not just going pitch one, punch out. Oh, only strike one. No, next pitch, punch out. He's able to pitch.
Yeah, you got to set it up. I like that. So if you want a little more controversy, though, and debate in terms of who's going to win these awards tonight, there are some categories that I think will cause quite a bit of discussion. And I think that's going to culminate with who wins the top overall player award, the most outstanding player in all of baseball, which is between Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Ronald Acuna Jr. We talked about it a little on yesterday's show. We'll get into that on the Players' Choice Awards show tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. AJ, I need you to stay awake at 7 to be able to watch this, okay?
Nope.
On the Foul Territory YouTube channel. It's sponsored by Candy Digital. Yes, you're watching. I'll be in the chat, too, while it's going on so that we can talk to people. But we'll go over all of the winners, and we will talk to some of those winners as well. It's tonight. So if you're missing baseball and you're crying, we've got you covered right away. And also shout out to Candy for sponsoring the show. It's your official destination for MLB digital collectibles. You can collect, buy, sell, and earn rewards like meet and greets with MLB stars, and there's game used gear, signed memorabilia, and a free team pack for you if you go to go.candy.com/pack. That's just for the Foul Territory fam. Go.candy.com/pack. And when I say Foul Territory fam, like anybody watching or listening to the show, even if you don't like us, you can still go to go.candy.com/pack or use the QR code on your screen, and we'll put the link in the show notes on the podcast as well. AJ, you've been staying up late for a while. You're going to catch up on sleep this weekend, dude?
Oh, bro, listen. These post-game shows were fun. But midnight, 1 a.m., then up at 6 with the children takes its toll on us people that aren't used to it. I need my 8 hours.
You deserve a break, dude. A little golf course, cold beverage, whole deal. I know you'll get that going. By the way, we're going to be in Atlantic City for tomorrow's show. And by we, I mean not AJ, not invited to Jersey, but Kratz, myself, Todd Frazier will be there at Borgata, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Let's slap hands and go over the rest of the stuff we're looking forward to.
Hey! Ball. Nope. Can't change the call.
You can challenge system coming soon. Exactly.
2025.
2025. Kratz, what do you got? What are you wearing? Is that a baseball hat?
I thought I had ran out of hats that actually fit my head. It's a 2018 postseason hat, so I guess it's the end of the season. I'm out of hats.
This was the last one?
I don't know. I have some that, like I said, that don't fit, and that don't fit, and because the snapback is all janky. I have a couple others that are I don't really feel like wearing, like a Pirates. This one, Pirates little Velcro back here.
Wow, looks like a Masters hat or something.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Yeah. Well, good, dude. You had a good run, and the season is over. And a reminder to everyone, we are here every day, 1 o'clock Eastern. We're not going to 3 every day, but we'll be here. We'll cover all the big signings, trades, talk to players in the offseason about what the hell they're doing, what their Pilates class is like, and whatever else is going on. So,
am I the only one that's still amazed that Rowdy's doing Pilates? I know, but like Rowdy?
I'm amazed that you're doing Pilates.
Dude, I've done them for years, bro. I've done Pilates for years.
Well, that's still amazing.
And I am super not I am super not flexible.
I want to go to a class. Is there you go to a good class in Orlando? Is it a private one-on-one sesh like Rowdy, or are there other humans?
Yeah, it's one-on-one. There are not anyone else in there.
So you're proud of it, but you're not doing Pilates in front of anybody.
Yeah, I mean in front of the coach.
That's it. You get one-on-one. What's your favorite Pilates move? Are you doing the like slide on the board thing where you and touching your toe?
Yeah.
Because Corey Kluber was the greatest Pilates person I've ever seen.
I mean, I'm not very great at it. My favorite move is probably when you do like the leg circles. You have your feet in the little loops and do circles with them. Oh man, it hurts so good. As the Cougar once said.
All right. Lastly, something that AJ does really well that we have an instant replay for is right before the show starts having an unfortunate water accident.
I mean, the cap is on. The cap was on.
That's all those Pilates.
I mean, the cap was on. I was like, oh man. But what you guys didn't get is when Matt, our intern here, he spilt my coffee. So I was trying. There's coffee on my water bottle. So then I was trying to clean but I can't believe the cap was on. That's why I was like, oh, I can squeeze it hard. But man, you know what? Look at this. You just don't know your own strength sometimes.
I mean, ham hocks.
Look at that. You just don't know your own strength. Bow!
You're going to be bashing those putts tomorrow on the golf course.
Oh, man.
You're going to have an 89.
Eddie in the chat goes, second hour of FT in the offseason is just AJ doing Pilates.
You guys don't want to see that. Because I can't even, like, the poor lady's like, straighten your legs. I'm like, dude, my legs don't straighten at all.
AJ going live on FT YouTube one day for a Pilates class, like a virtual Pilates class, AJ and Rowdy Tellez. If you're here for it and you're watching or listening to this afterward, comment. If we get enough of them, then we'll try and set it up. We'll see everyone on the Players' Choice Awards show in about 4 hours from now, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Thanks, everyone, for an awesome season. The FT fan behind the scenes, crushing it. We'll give them a big thank you in Atlantic City tomorrow, too. And we'll see most of you on a Friday for FT Live. Later. Stay flexible.